Welcome to Escoffier Online. This is Chef Thomas with Dumpling 101. What an exciting topic today. It's one of my favorite. I've grew up with dumplings in Austria. My mom always would make dumplings with my grandma. We had different kinds of fruits and we even put bacon in there. And so very, very fond memories of that particular dish. So I want to introduce you to this. We're going to put a world spin on it. So I brought a couple of examples in there and a couple of pictures on how the dumplings look around the world. So first of all, let's talk about this ancient dumpling. So dumplings are around for a long, long time. They were usually filled with meat, vegetables, or fruits. Now, I brought one of these fruit dumplings here, and we also have a beautiful picture of a dumpling cut open. But this is basically a beautiful dessert you see here with plums. And we also can fill them with strawberries or with other fruits, but these are probably the most common fruits you will see, with apricots also in dumplings, especially in Eastern Europe, Austria, Germany, and so forth. So great. Let's go back to our history here a little bit. We have vegetable, meat, fruits. We also have sometimes grains in them. And the different doughs we can find around these dumplings spread anywhere from rice flour in Asia all the way to bread, dry bread in Germany, to potatoes in Italy. So let's go down the cooking methods. Cooking methods we use for these wonderful dumplings are very similar to a lot of other starches. We can either boil them, or we can fry them, or we can also steam them. And steamed dumplings is something we find all the way in Asia, but we also again find it all the way in Eastern Europe. So the steamed dumplings, I brought a couple pictures of a very, very common dish which is shared in Austria and Germany, Poland as well. This is a yeast dough. You can see the yeast dough is laid out, rolled out, and cut. Later on it will be filled with a marmalade which is made by roasting plums with a little bit of rum and also sugar. So this is spooned in, as you can see on the picture, and then it's actually pinched together. And this pinching process actually binds everything nice together, and it's solid. It's a very heavy dough at the beginning because it's yeast dough, and then they actually take the dough and they steam it in a steam basket. So we have boiling water, a steam basket, and the dumplings are steaming in there. So obviously that yeast dough starts rising a little bit more, but also cooking at the same time. And in the end, it solidifies and keeps that nice plum marmalade, that what we call povidel, inside of that steamed dumpling. We serve that on a plate with ground up poppy seeds, with powdered sugar, sometimes even with vanilla sauce. It is a fantastic dish. So we have boiling, we have frying, and we have steaming. Now let's look about the different countries here. So when you think about the worldly view of dumplings, in Czechoslovakia we have something called knedlíky, which are a loaf size actually. They put bread in loaves with milk and with eggs, and they actually bake it like that. They take it out and then they slice it, and they actually cook or saute the sliced dumplings. So it's kind of a dumpling, but not really, but it still falls under that category. Now, that is in Czechoslovakia. We also have Polish items. They are actually kind of like the Polish gnocchi, which are called kopitka, and these are actually made with potatoes. The Hungarian have something called testák. These are also dumplings. They're mainly filled with meats, bacon, sometimes with boiled meats, like almost like a little bit like a pulled pork maybe. Very important right now for Passover, which started today. We have also the Jewish matzo ball. Matzo is a bread which is unleavened, which has no leavening agent in there. So this is considered a purity or pure bread, and is used for rituals, especially during Passover. We crimp those up, we make them into little balls, usually served in soup broths. So that would be the matzo ball, and we have a picture of that as well. The Chinese, on the other hand, with their wontons and the Potstickers, have a totally different take on dumplings. First of all, the Asian dumplings were long on the market before we even started thinking about food. We have records. They are in the Song dynasty, which is 960 to 1279 AD. So this is the first record of dumplings actually as a snack food, and that was in the Song dynasty. Now these dumplings come in different ways, shapes, and forms. Potstickers are basically kind of raviolis, Chinese way, in rice dough. Then we have mochi, which is also a stumped rice dough, which is very starchy. You can get those nowadays filled with ice cream in most Chinese and Japanese restaurants. They are fantastic. They have green tea in the bean paste sometimes. It's a very fantastic dessert. Now, and last but not least, we have something called a steamed bun. And I actually have that steamed bun steaming right in here in my steaming basket. And I want to show you this now, how this looks like. So we have a beautiful basket here with a water bath, and we have our steamed Chinese buns in here. Now these are formed, pinched together, and they will cook for maybe 15-20 minutes until the dough is set. The insides are sometimes chicken, pork, cabbage, depending on which kind of area these dumplings come from. We are close here to Chicago. We have fantastic Chinatown where you can go for steamed dumplings anytime. These are fantastic. So this is basically how you do them in a steam basket. Now back to a little bit more the more common Eastern dumplings, which are Potstickers. And I actually made some Potstickers here, and they should be about ready. I have a little plate ready here. And these Potstickers, as you can see, are actually seared on the bottom with a little bit of oil. And then you put a couple more drops of water in them to finish steaming them. These Potstickers, again, they come with different flavors, from pork to chicken to vegetarian ones just filled with some sort of cabbage. So here you go. I have a wonderful Potsticker dish. You can also put a little bit more color on there. And this is another style of dumpling. Now obviously this is pinched together, wonton skins, and filled, steamed, and or actually sauteed and steamed. All right, good. Now speaking of filling and about stuffing, obviously the most common dumpling style is actually coming from Italy. We have something called ravioli, and I have here filled ravioli right with me. I have them cut apart so you can see. So this is a very fine semolina dough. Semolina is ground up, eggs in there, a little bit of oil, water, and we roll this out. Italy is very famous for all the pasta dishes. So this is a beautiful dough, and then we put a little bit ricotta in there with some sage. We have a picture of the finished dish as well. This would be the ravioli with a butter sauce and sage. So a fantastic way also to make dumplings. Now these raviolis you can fill, again you can boil, or you can also deep fry them. Another item the Italians are really famous for are gnocchi. And gnocchi originally were actually not made with potatoes as they are now, because up to the 1600s, potatoes were actually not native to Italy. So the potato dough, which forms now the gnocchis and is very famous for it originally was wheat flour. So in all technicality, gnocchis used to be a pasta, which was actually more considered as a macaroni than a potato dumpling. Now these potato dumplings, as you can see on the picture, are formed with little ridges in there. These ridges come actually because of the use of a fork or a wooden board which has ridges in there. and they form them into that. These ridges have a sense. These make sense. Also, most of your pasta, when it's formed, makes sense that there's ridges in there, like rigatoni or the rotini and so forth, because that actually captures some of the sauce they are served with. So if you if you make a dish and you are looking for the perfect pasta, keep in mind how your sauce is with this pasta. Is it a very runny sauce? Is it heavy cream consistency? Is it nappe? Is it very chunky? Is it a tomato sauce? So this plays a big role in that too. So gnocchi, very, very fantastic. A potato dough. They used to be also called trophy, which comes from Italy, from a different part of Italy. So with the Italian gnocchi and with the ravioli, we go now to my favorite country, which is Austria. The Austrians and the Germans have formed dumplings for many, many years. We have something called a bread dumpling, which I show a picture of it right now. These bread dumplings were actually made mainly because of the poor folks or peasants. They had stale bread. This stale bread was cut up and used nice. This stale bread was used with milk and eggs and other herbs and formed and then cooked in water or also sometimes baked. And it would actually contribute to a large broth. So it was almost like a garnish, you would consider this nowadays. So these bread dumplings are very, very common in Austrian cuisine. Also the leftovers are usually cut in slices, very much like the Czechoslovakian ones. And then also roasted, maybe some eggs cracked over it and so forth. It was all about feeding a lot of people with very little of product. So we have our water going here. We have to wait till it's cooking. And let me tell you in the meanwhile, while we're waiting till this cooks, how these dumplings are made. So I have these dumplings right here. We needed a cream cheese dough. The cream cheese dough is very, very simple dough. You need 8 ounces of cream cheese. You can use farmer's cream cheese or cream cheese, like very smooth cream cheese. And you have 3/4 of a cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 whole egg. You work this together to have a nice dough. Add a little bit more flour if it's too sticky. You add either a little bit of vanilla extract or real vanilla bean, depending if you have it, and also either lemon zest or orange zest. That is basically the skin of the citrus fruits. You mix this all together, you work this with your hands, and you let it sit for about 30 minutes in a cool spot. Fridge would be probably best. Put it on a floured surface, you roll it out, you put your fruit on it, you cut around it, you close it, and you pinch the ends so that they're nice and tight. Now, about the fillings, we talked about that before. When you use stone fruits like plums, which have a pit, you want to make sure that you take this pit out. So this pit needs to go. In this case, a lot of Austrian chefs use marzipan or actually cubed sugar. So they put in a marzipan and cubed sugar in there, put that back together, and now it goes into the dough, rolled up and ready to go, and then they look like this. Okay, so again, cut them apart. The same with apricots. Obviously with strawberries, you just have to take the green top off, and that would be enough for the strawberries. Always a little bit sugar is always a good thing. So we are taking these dumplings now, and our water is boiling. Be careful that you don't burn yourself. So we have our dumplings here. I'm going to drop them in here. So, while these dumplings are boiling, we are looking for one big hint if they're done, and that is when they float up to the surface. So this may take a couple seconds here until they start floating, and then you take them right from the boiling water, usually to a saute pan with your breadcrumbs. Now, I didn't put these in a saute pan anymore because I made them earlier, but this is basically breadcrumbs and sugar and butter roasted up together, sauteed together, so it gets a little bit darker. Smells really, really good. You could put a little bit cinnamon in there if you like, but that takes away from the plums. So when the dumpling is ready to come out, we will just take that dumpling and put it into those breadcrumbs. Trying to get no water here. So this one right here. So this turns into this wonderful dumpling right here. Again, you can fill it with almost anything. Fruits, meats, vegetables. You can make it salad, a salad dumpling, that would be great too. There's also very good potato dough recipes for these dumplings, very much like the gnocchis, just again you fill them. So be creative with these dumplings. As you can see, they have been around for many, many years, for hundreds of years we're cooking, in different forms and shapes, from China up to Europe. The Hispanics use them, they're called empanadas, mainly baked or deep fried. So there's so many different techniques. Be creative, try different flavor profiles out, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us, and I will take questions now in the chat room.